Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our theater session on Microsoft Whiteboard. My name's Chanda. I am a senior product marketer for Microsoft Whiteboard. With that, thank you, Palmer. So, how many people are familiar and have heard of Microsoft Whiteboard before? Raise your hand. Oh, sweet. Okay.
75%?
That's great. So, for those of you who haven't, or just a quick refresher, Microsoft Whiteboard is a free-form intelligent canvas where individuals and teams can go to ideate, create, and collaborate on this infinite canvas. And so the beauty of it is you can create however you want, work naturally. You can use pen, touch, across different types of devices. Because Microsoft Whiteboard is an app on Windows 10, it is an app on iOS, and it's currently in preview for the web. You can use it across whatever device you choose. Finally, it also saves to the cloud, and so you can always start brainstorming, on your own or with a team, and then come back to it later. All your boards are stored in the app, and so you can resume seamlessly. So rather than tell you all these great things, I'm going to turn it over to Ian and Palmer to show you all the cool things that you can do on the whiteboard.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Ian Mikatel. I'm a senior product manager on the Whiteboard team, and this is my friend Palmer here.
Yep.
And he is a new member to our Whiteboard team. Mm-hmm. And yeah, first off, real quick, we'll roll this 1-minute video. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it kind of tells the whole story of Whiteboard in a really succinct way. So we'll just show that real quick.
Our imagination comes alive with a place to play, and the whiteboard is a space to bring our ideas to life. What if we could bring the whiteboard into our digital world and create together in completely new ways? Introducing Microsoft Whiteboard, a new app designed to bring the collective power of the group to life.
As an ad agency, Whiteboard allows us to share our ideas from anywhere instantly. It's become a natural extension of how we work today.
Draw, type, add an image or a note. Watch your ideas take shape. And take your team's creativity to new heights.
Collaborating on Whiteboard is pretty seamless. It kind of feels like there's a flow or an energy where you're just kind of playing off of somebody else. You draw something, they draw right next to it. It's like this conversation that's happening visually.
Whiteboard together in real time from wherever you are. Pick up where someone else left off, or start from scratch. When you're done, you're done. Your ideas are safe in the cloud. Welcome to a new way to whiteboard.
Cool. So that hopefully gives you a quick little overview of what we're all about in the Whiteboard team. And I see a bunch of familiar faces in the audience, so if you've been on this journey with us over the past couple of years, you may have known the history of the product. It actually started out on the Surface Hub devices as only an app on Surface Hub. And then just about a year or two ago, we decided to extend the product to multiple form factors, multiple devices, because really the way we see the future of work and the research we see internally when we talk to customers externally is a lot more remote collaboration going on, a lot of more creative problem solving in the workplace. And so a free-form kind of digital canvas like a whiteboard is really powerful for that kind of work. And so it didn't make sense anymore to just constrain it to one device type. So as Chanda mentioned a minute ago, we're really excited. Yesterday we announced the Whiteboard app is now available on iOS, and it's also in a preview for the web. So what we thought we would do today is jump into the app a little bit and show you just a couple scenarios of how we envision folks using the whiteboard. And some of this is based on some research we've done internally. Some of this is based on when we've met with customers and seen how they're using it today. And the little seed I'll plant now that I'd love for y'all to think about as I'm talking is how might you use the whiteboard in your workplace? What scenarios, what settings, what problems are you trying to solve with it? And then we'd love to hear that at the end of the session in Q&A, or if you head on over to our booth afterwards, Palmer, Chanda, and I will be there for a couple hours to do deeper dive demos, Q&A, deployment questions if you have those, whatever you may need. We only have a small amount of time here today, so yeah, so that's what we'd like to do today. So the first thing we wanted to show you real quick is actually just like Whiteboard 101. So before we dive into any actual scenarios, just what are we working with here? It's really simple at its core. It is a digital version of a whiteboard. So if you're used to walking up to an analog whiteboard and you pick up a marker and you just go, that's exactly what we've tried to mimic here. So the first thing I always tell people is you'll actually notice this is one of the few Office apps that doesn't have a ribbon with a lot of different controls in it, right? And we did that really intentionally, and we did that on purpose. What we're trying to achieve here is simplicity and approachability. So when we user test this app, that's the #1 thing we hear from users is, oh my gosh, this app feels really simple and approachable. Like I could just walk up to it and use it. I don't feel like I have to figure anything out. I don't have to talk to a coworker and say, how do I use that whiteboard thing? It just behaves how you expect. So at the bottom, you see a bunch of inking controls. I see some of my friends from the Windows Ink team here. We actually partner with them to deliver best-in-class inking in the Whiteboard app through a bunch of different tips and tricks that we run through the Windows hardware. So it's optimized on Windows hardware. It's best there. And then we are also on all the platforms as well. But you'll see some of the things here. You may know Rainbow Ink. That's a fun one we actually brought over from OneNote. When I was on the OneNote team a couple years ago, we designed that. Come over to our booth after if you want to hear the backstory on how that came to be. We also have the Galaxy ink there, which actually, fun note, samples Hubble space photography to create it, which is really cool. And then so at the bottom, you have all your basic inking controls. If you just want to walk up and get started, it's there. We have a couple other things. I'll point out the ruler, if Palmer, you want to pull that one up. Really simple tool to draw straight lines really efficiently and effectively. It's really handy if you're trying to communicate certain ideas. It just snaps the ink right to that control, so you can manipulate it with 2 fingers here and draw with the other one. Really powerful. And then, if you click that little plus button, Palmer, in the toolbar down there, you'll see we have a bunch of additional functionality in here. So you could, the one I love to show, we'll try Bing Image. You can take your pen, and again, we're keeping the pen in your hand because that's natural for a whiteboard app, right? And you can just write some kind of thing you want to search for a picture for. And what we do is ink recognition. You noticed it recognized he wrote dog. I think you may need to hit see all images, or we have a Wi-Fi connection issue. There we go. Yep. So he got a bunch of images of dogs, and so he can now just tap on those, and he'll drop them right on the whiteboard canvas. Super quick and easy. Helps you create, ideate in the moment settings. If you're looking for some inspiration, images are really powerful for that. So it's a really great feature. We also like to talk about this is safe search, so you're not going to get anything super inappropriate, which is great for work or school settings. And so yeah, that's one of the things I like to point out to folks. And then additionally, Palmer, if you click on the little plus there, you'll see we have the ability to add sticky notes, a text note as we call it here. It drops it right on the canvas. You can either ink or type into that. So if you're on a device that doesn't have either pen or touch, we support basic keyboard functionality so everyone can participate in a session. And I'll talk a little bit more as we dive into the deeper scenarios about why sticky notes are super powerful in a whiteboard app. And one of the things I'll point out is he moves the sticky note, the ink automatically sticks. And so that's really important, right? Like we know that there's a connection there between what you're doing. And a lot of other places you might see those two actually separate out and you have to group them and do some tricks. We just did that automatically for you. So next that's kind of the basic core functionality of the app. A big pillar though of the whiteboard is really about collaboration. It's inviting other people in, whether they're in the room with you or remote, to work with you, to ideate. So if real quickly Palmer hits that little plus button on the top, you'll see a couple things here. One is we default give you a web sharing link. This is a link you can send to anywhere, anyone, anytime, and it will give them access to this board. So if you want to send that in an email, you want to paste it into a Teams chat, into a channel, anywhere you want, you can instantly give them access to the board. And now it's really good timing, and I can finally tell you a great story because we announced our web preview yesterday. So even if the other person you're sending this to doesn't have the app installed, they'll click that link and they'll be able to view it and do some light editing in our preview of the web app for Whiteboard. So no matter where they are, it doesn't matter if they even know what this app is, if you have something you want to ideate on, send them that link and they can get started really easily. Additionally, I don't know if we have it in this particular UI right now, you can invite people within your org. So if you're all, for example, in the same tenant, you can invite other coworkers. You'll actually see their faces and names. It's kind of like when you're in Outlook and you're typing people. So you'll see all that functionality there. It makes it really easy. So that's kind of collaboration in the basic tool set. I think, just doing a quick time check, we have about 10 minutes, about halfway through. We wanted to show you some of these scenarios that I mentioned to give you kind of a really good understanding of how we've heard from customers that they're using the whiteboard and how you might want to implement it within your, in your companies. Oh, great, he pulled it up. So you can see there, it's actually pulling up suggested contacts, and it's actually being able to invite people just, again, with ink and the pen. So one of the key points I'm going to keep reiterating it, is if you do have the ability to have a pen in your hand on a device, we optimize this app for pen and touch. And we want to make it so you can do really powerful things and never put down the pen. You don't have to keep switching between different modalities, right? I have to put the pen down and I have to start typing for a minute. So we do a lot of things, whether that's the Bing image search, whether that's inviting people to your board, all that stuff is just with the pen in your hand. So you stay in flow. You probably heard about flow before. It's that moment in time when you got an idea and you want to ideate on a whiteboard, right? So the last thing we want to do as an app is kind of break that flow for you and make it so that you have to think about typing something, putting down the pen, because that's when the ideas just kind of fade away. So let's jump into a couple of these sample boards that we've created that just show a couple scenarios. The first one is brainstorming. So this is kind of the top scenario. Every time somebody says, what do you want to use your whiteboard for, they tell us, we want to do brainstorming on it. And it's a really good actual scenario for a digital app to help you with. Because today, what most people do is they walk up to an analog whiteboard and they stick a bunch of notes on there with their markers, and then they do an ideation session at the desk with a pad of sticky notes, and then everybody sticks these sticky notes to a wall, and then everybody moves the sticky notes around into color-coded groups, or you take a picture of it to save for later. So all those things are just like limitations of the fact that it's not digital. And so when we do that on this canvas and whiteboard, we can do that same flow. We're not changing your workflow. It's familiar. It's going to feel like you've always done it. But you'll get a bunch of free benefits, as I like to call it. So for example, if we run out of time, and this happens at Microsoft all the time, somebody's coming into your meeting room and they're kicking you out, and you're like, oh no, we got to save all the work. Somebody take a picture. You don't have to do that anymore. It's already in the cloud. It's saved. If you got to switch meeting rooms at last minute, it's just there. You don't have to worry about that. Additionally, and this is kind of where I like to tip our hand a little bit. This isn't in the app now, to be super clear, but it's things we're working on. You could imagine a future, that's the legal phrase I've been told to say, where those sticky notes are color-coded, right? The exercise you all go through manually is let me organize those manually. Well, we could just do that for you. We know what colors are what sticky notes, right? So we can do smart things in the future. And so when we say, I think Chanda said it at the top, this is an intelligent freeform canvas. The intelligence is a thing we're investing a ton on, and I see some of my friends in Windows nodding because I'm working directly with them to make that happen. So just wanted to give a little peek into the future there. But so the brainstorming is really critical. If you could zoom in, Palmer, on the top here real quick. This is just illustrating the fact that you may be doing this on the whiteboard, but you could on the side have either a Skype call or a Teams meeting, for example, and have a bunch of people in a boardroom together, but then also have a bunch of remote participants. And because you could just share that link to the board, everybody's on the same page. Nobody feels left out. Everybody sees really high fidelity what's going on. And then additionally, people often get a little confused. Well, I can do this today. I could just share my desktop. Right? I can just share my screen. What's the point? Why do I need this? Well, the difference is when you share your screen, obviously those people on the other end, they can't actually communicate back. They can talk, but they can't drop their own sticky note. They can't write their own ID on the board. So by sharing the direct link to the whiteboard, everybody feels like they're literally standing at the board together with you. So that's really powerful. All right, so let's jump over to our next scenario, Palmer.
Yep.
So this next one is an iterative design project. So this is something where, and I think it just speaks for itself once you see it. The whiteboard is really nice because it's auto-saving all the time. It's an infinite canvas in all 4 directions. So there's no multiple pages you have to make. You don't have to create new space. It can just keep growing as your ideas kind of sprawl out. And the benefit of that is you can just keep panning real fast. The specific content's not important here. It's the scope of it, right? So you can see this is a multi-week project where a team was iterating on a bunch of different designs to come to a final design. And in this sense, you see all that work laid out here. This was over maybe a month or 2 of a project. And then if Palmer zooms out now, you can see the totality of that project's work in one view. It's not spread across multiple files and folders and different emails, right? And that's really powerful because what we're learning, and I'm sure you all encounter this, is that it's almost as important of how we work as to what we do, right? It's important to see how people are working. Oh, maybe this person's struggling on ideation. They're not contributing very much. Maybe we should chat with them if you're a manager. Like, do you need some help with that? So it's really nice to have that 10,000-foot view onto how the project happened start to end. All right, let's jump to our next board here. So this is draft and improve. So we specifically are focusing on this scenario because what we hear from companies that were kind of piloting the app before we launched, super common scenario. So this is, I have a 5-minute stand-up, we're drafting an idea on some project, but we also need to get approval or ideation or feedback from management, from another partner team, from a client or a customer, right? And so the idea here is that you can, oh, we're getting it open up here. What you'll see is basically it's where somebody starts out with the core seed of an idea, and they take it, and maybe they share the board directly, maybe they present it, but then they're iterating on that same idea and incorporating feedback from others who join the board. We have
It's being a little slow
glitch
right now. I think
all right.
all the Wi-Fi.
So the good news is if we have any issues here, all the screenshots of every one of these demo boards are actually in the deck that will be shared out and posted to the Ignite site. So you can go deep dive into these later if we can't get it up right now. Okay, so let's jump to the next one while we're here. So, oh, okay, we might be good. All right, perfect. So yeah, the draft and improve one, like I said, it's basically that idea that you're starting with something, you're getting feedback, you're iterating on it, and you see it evolve over time. Giving it one more shot. Cross our fingers, everybody.
Everyone log off Wi-Fi real quick.
Yeah. All right, don't worry about it. OK, so let's jump back to the slides real quick. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I can show it here real quick. So if you jump to the next slide, there it is. So you see here, I know it's a little small, but you can see basically they had a bunch of ideas. And they're actually, in this example, we were thinking a lot of people try to actually have to present it like in a formal presentation. So they're drafting a PowerPoint deck with a bunch of like rough thoughts. And they're getting feedback from a bunch of different people on, OK, maybe we should talk about this here. Maybe we should put this here. And then in this example here, we're actually showing a feature. We didn't get to demo today, but you can create stacks in Whiteboard of images. Those stacks, when you just basically drag and drop or insert a bunch of images onto the canvas, it will create an automatic stack and a little mini slideshow that you can flip through of the images. It's pretty cool, and it's really handy for kind of pulling in stacks of information into the app. All right, so just kind of our call to action here to find out more, like we said, we'll be in the Office Pro Plus or the 365 Pro Plus booth in the Expo Hall right after this for 2 hours. We'd love to come chat with you, answer any questions, see specific demos, learn about what's coming more. And then the real big call to action is where do you go get this app? It's free for y'all. And if you have Office 365, you can sign in and you'll get collaboration, free storage. You can invite other participants. So there's really no reason to go give it a shot. You can go to the Windows 10 App Store right now. You can download it on your devices. And then the iOS App Store right now, as of yesterday, it's live in there. So if you have an iPhone or an iPad, go give that a shot. And then if you go to whiteboard.microsoft.com, that is the URL for the Whiteboard web app. And that is in a commercial preview. So you'll need to sign in with your org ID from your work. And your IT admin will actually also, and I know this isn't the best news to give you right now, but the IT admin will need to turn that on for your tenant because it's in a preview state. And once we GA that web app, then it will be default on for everybody. So yeah, I think that covers most of what we want to talk about today. If there's any questions, I know we don't think we have a ton of time here for Q&A. We have maybe like a minute for one or two. But like I said, we'll be over in the booth. We'd really love to come chat with y'all. Because at this point, the last thing I'll maybe leave you with, and this is like my call to action from the product team perspective, we're the new kid on the block in Office, right? Like it's not every day Office creates a new app. And we're in our infancy. We're the toddler that's just trying to like walk around, right? And so it's really helpful at this stage for you to give us direct feedback on like, I wouldn't ever use this app because I need these 3 things. Or, hey, we tried it out and this was really broken. That level of feedback right now is super valuable. It's really, really important to us. So if you've tested it out, if you're curious, give it a shot and then come chat with us.
And just to circle back on what Ian was saying earlier, if anyone has any great ideas for how they would leverage Whiteboard in their organizations, in their workflow, we'd love to hear it right now and share with the rest of the crowd. So,
anybody have an interesting use case or scenario that they're thinking about? They're like, I could use this. Yeah, in the back. Mind mapping. Yeah, that's a common one we've heard about. Yeah, do you do a lot of it? Okay, yeah. Was there one over here? Yep. Let me repeat it so everybody can hear. So she was saying they want to do virtual workshops. Keep going.
Yeah, and so as part of that, when we create these breakout sessions on Microsoft Teams, we want people to do these whiteboard design sessions. Will this eventually integrate? Does it integrate into Teams? Does it have all the functionality of this Teams?
Yeah, so we are working with the Teams team really closely to integrate it. I can't talk a ton about what exactly it will be right now, just because we're still in the process, but absolutely it will be there. One of the things I like to say is people kind of expect, like when you're in a Teams meeting, for example, or just say any online meeting. Let's take Teams out of it. When you're on an online meeting, you expect audio, video, and a whiteboard, right? Yes, exactly. Yep, we are working with them, so that's cool. So virtual workshops. Yep. Stencil libraries. Yeah, it's interesting. So I'll give another little tidbit here. One of the things we heard in our preview was a lot of companies were dropping semi-transparent images onto our canvas and using them almost as a template basis, right, to start whatever you were going to do. So we're actually looking at that pretty heavily on the product side to build that kind of functionality in by default. Stencils are in that same kind of that path. So it's funny because I come from the OneNote team before this, and we always had this problem in OneNote we call the BWP, the big white page. It was, I've heard so many great things about OneNote. I launch it. It's just a white, like, what do I do? How do I get started? If somebody doesn't send you a link to a note, it's the same concept in Whiteboard, right? You walk up, it's almost so simple that you're like, I could do so many things. Where do I start? So we're going to help on that as well. In the back?
3D support?
Oh, 3D support. Yeah, it's interesting. So in a previous version of the app, we actually had built in some of that. We had to take it out for some technical reasons, but it's definitely something we're looking at more deeply, especially because on a lot of these large screens, it's really powerful from a presentation perspective. So right now our plan is to offer the web app for Mac users, and then we're listening pretty deeply. So like if you could chat with us afterwards and let us know what you're looking for. If there's something we don't think we can achieve with the web app, we would reconsider that. But that's our plan right now.
I think over here, Ian. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hi. I would like to start with Visio. People, mark it up, and we have to deal with floor plans a lot.
Yeah. So just to reiterate, he was saying he would love to start with Visio, bring that into Whiteboard somehow. You're all just hitting on the right. My first team at Microsoft was Visio, so it's near and dear to my heart. And I actually have been talking to them, and let me say this about what are the integrations and what's our vision for Whiteboard. So, and this might be a really good way to close. So we are hoping that the Whiteboard becomes kind of your starting place in Office for a lot of work, for a lot of creative work, when you don't know what it needs to be yet. It's just a rough idea. You don't know, do I need to make a deck or a spreadsheet or a Word doc, or like, we don't know what this is going to be. So the Whiteboard is a great starting place because it's just a free-form blank canvas. But what our job is, our responsibility, and where we're going to take this, hopefully if we do it right, is we should allow you to start really rough with ink and images and whatever, and then say, okay, now I know I need to go make a deck or a PowerPoint or a Visio with this, and we should make it dead simple for you to take your starting rough ideas in Whiteboard and push it downstream to the rest of Office and to other Office apps, and to really jumpstart whatever other productivity things you're trying to do in Office. So that's kind of where we're trying to get to. We have a lot of work to do, but that's our vision. So, all right, with that, thank you.
Thank you all, and for those who shared their great ideas, we have some hats for you as well.
Yeah, so come on up if you chatted with us, and we'll give you some swag. So
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.